The MG ZSEV has been crowned as one of the most sensible EVs at this side of rupees 50 lakh. But when I first got to drive the ZSEV at the media round, I didn't get enough time to talk about the in-depth details like the driving range and the overall feel of the car. But as I've driven this car for over 2 days now, here comes my summarized driving experience with the ZSEV facelift. But before I move further, let me request you to please subscribe to the YouTube channel and also follow our social handles. With that being said, now start with the video. Now let me start with the way the ZSEV looks at the front. Generally, I am surprised to see that this car has been perceived so well in the market despite having a rather polarizing design at the front end. The enclosed grille looks like a very tight-lipped fish kind of appearance, but I have a solution for you. I have seen a UK spec car on a YouTube video where they have stuck a decal at the front which looks a lot more sportier, and if the car is in a lighter shade, that gives a very sportier appeal to the whole design of the car. But nonetheless, the front of the car is decent in my opinion, and that has been complemented by these beautiful looking LED headlights. These get 9 array of LEDs along with a projector LED headlamp with a bi-xenon light. It also gets a LED DRL that also develops as a turn indicator. Now if I move further, we get a chrome finishing at the lower bumper, and there is also a sensor that is not for ADAS, that is a dummy piece in my opinion because it doesn't offer the ADAS features of the Ester. However, MG claims that it gets lane keeping assist, but to be honest, I have never experienced that in my driving. Let me tell you that I am not really a fan of this overkill market strategy from MG. This gets an electric badging on both the fenders that looks really overkill and doesn't suit the character of the car. But of course, it serves its purpose by differentiating this car from the Ester that looks really similar to this car. Now, one gimmick about the ZSEV are these alloy wheels. Let me tell you that these are not alloy wheels in the first place. These are styled wheels. I will attach a video on over this video, but let me tell you that these are styled wheels and beneath is the actual alloy wheel. This has been done to save some weight and also give this car a lot more aerodynamic efficiency because these are aero optimized wheels. Even the Primacy Michelin tires on this car are also low rolling resistance. Now at the side, the best angle to look at the ZSEV is that the rear kink that gives it a very macho appeal and suits the overall silhouette of the car. Now let's go to the back to check the trunk space and the design of the rear. Now the rear in my opinion has to be the best looking angle of the Ester. As you can see, it gets a very nice looking set of LED tail lights with 9 array of LEDs and a very broad and long LED section at the rear. The overall design of the tail lights also suits the character of the car, and in this red paint, it looks really superb at night. If I talk about the boot, let me show you that this MG logo also developed as a trunk release, and if you open it up, we get a broad opening and a very wide space as well. Beneath the boot space, we also get a full-size spare wheel with alloy, so that's a really nice touch in my opinion. And we also get a boot lamp if you want to access your stuff in the night. It doesn't get any electric closure for the tailgate, but it's fair in my opinion because it's an electric vehicle and it's quite affordable as well. Now let's get on the inside to talk about the features and the overall design of the car. Now if I talk about the interiors of the ZSEV, they look really great in my opinion, and the leather of dashboard gives it a very premium appeal. The top of the dashboard is soft finished and so is the center bolster, but it gets very soft in the stitched leather finish. The turbine finished AC vents also look really great. The steering wheel also gets a leather wrap finish with perforation, and red stitching looks also really nice. If you want to have a lighter shade, you can also offer the ivory shade that MG offers with the base variant and the top variant of course. This one is a dark interior finish which gets red inserts on the center console as well. In the middle we get 2 cup holders and it gets a lid as well, and the armrest is also fairly large and it's quite deep as well. We also get a wireless charging pad here which charges up the phone really fast. I have checked it. And this is the gear select of the car. It gets curse modes and it gets battery and the drive modes as well. There is electronic parking brake along with the auto hold function. The controls for the sunroof can be found up there, but the problem is that the car doesn't get an auto dimming IOVM, so whenever you are driving in the night, you have to switch to the night mode manually. But the interesting touch here by MG is that we get a USB charging port on the windscreen, so you can connect a dash cam without hanging the wire up till there. Talking about other things, that the visors here get the vanity mirror, but there is no light on either ends of the car. What I have not liked till now is that first of all, it doesn't get the paddle shifter for regenerative braking. That's one down in my opinion. Secondly, the touch-free infotainment system, although it's fairly slick to use, doesn't get wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It gets wired functionality that is quite dated in these days, given that this car costs up to 30 lakhs rupees on road. Now, as we have covered all the impressions on the inside, let me go ahead and tell you how does it drive. So today is the third day of driving the ZSEV, and that's the time I should talk about the driving part of this car. So in this previous video, you must have realized that this car comes with a 50.3 kWh battery pack. That is considerably more than what it used to offer in the pre-facelifted version. It offers around 461 kilometers of range on a single charge, and that is quite impressive given that this cost under 30 lakh rupees. Now if I talk about the driving impressions first, because when I got to drive this car earlier, there wasn't enough time to test the car in its true potential. But as I've driven it for around 300 kilometers now, let's talk about that first. First of all, it doesn't even feel like a 30 lakh rupee car. The acceleration is really brisk, and you can easily do any kind of overtake without breaking a single sweat of this car. The powertrain is really impeccable, and the performance is genuinely impressive. On the figures side, it produces 174 Nm of torque, that is considerably higher than the pre-facelifted car. However, the torque delivery is 280 Nm, that is a lot less than the previous car. The earlier car used to produce around 380 Nm if I'm not wrong, but this one produces 280 Nm. But that difference is not felt when you are driving the car in the real world. The acceleration, as I told earlier, is really brisk, and there are 3 modes on offer. Even in the eco mode, the car performs really fast. The overtakes can be done without any problem, and so is the acceleration. Its 0 to 100 kmph claimed figure is 8.5 seconds. That is unseen in this segment. And we have always said that the ZSE is one of the most sensible cars under 30 lakh rupees if you are buying for an EV, and that still stands true even after the launch of the new cars like the BYD Atto 3 as well. Even though we are yet to get the prices for the BYD Atto 3, that is going to be considerably higher than this one. Now if I talk about some nitpickings, first of all I should say that this car has now done around 15,000 kilometers. This is a media car, of course, and with time I have seen some degradations. First of all, the brakes are a lot spongier than they used to be. The pedal feel is not that great. There is not enough feedback, and that only stays true once you drive the car for longer. If you pump the brakes enough, the brakes starts to work fine. But if you are driving the car early in the morning, the brakes do feel a little bit, I'd say, notchy in that sense. Talking about other things like the range per se. So let me tell you that I've been driving this car for over 3 days now, and I have charged it only once. I got the car at 62%, and that time it was showing around 200 plus kilometers of range. And since then, I've depleted the whole battery and then charged it again. I began the charging at a 50 kWh charger at MG's dealership. I started the charging at 32%, and the car got charged within half an hour to 85%. Secondly, the charging cost from 32% to 86%, I used around 27 kWh battery power, and with a price of 18.94 rupees per kWh, I got a bill of around 600 rupees, that is from 32 to 85%, and that is really cheap if you look at that way. And if you want to save cost even further, you can use home charging. MG gives you a home charging setup for that, and then you can achieve the golden figure of rupee 1 per kilometer. That's what EVs are really famous for. Now if I talk about the curve modes, I have been driving this car in the level 3 of regeneration because that's the best suited for city driving, and the regenerative braking is really strong. You don't really have to work a lot with brakes because the car is automatically shedding speeds every now and then whenever you are lifting off, and that's really easy to use in the city, and you really kind of get used to it when you are driving because you know how much brake pressure has been applied from the motors, and that is not only braking the car but also recuperating the battery as well. That's a fact that stays true with all the EVs in the market, and if you once get the hang of the regenerative braking, you can actually increase the range as well. You can expect around 350 to 400 kilometers on a single charge with the ZSEV in real world, I tell you, and that truly depends on the way you drive, the mode you are in, and the level of regenerative braking you are using. In the level 3 mode with eco mode, you can easily extract around 350 to 380 kilometers real world without compromising in terms of the way you drive. You just have to keep those modes in place, and the range is impressive. If you drive really insanely, like sometimes I do, we are in the Ravi range and we have been pushing this car over its limits, let me tell you, and the range right now is at 157 kilometers, whereas the battery percentage stands at 56%. So that's decent, but again it depends on the way you drive. We were 4 people on board, and we were fooling around with this car, and still the battery depletion isn't to an extent that is verifying to me. Now if I share some details on the handling front of this car, let me tell you that this is not as good to drive as the Hester. That's solely dependent on the steering feel, because if you don't know, the Hester comes with 3 steering modes, but whereas this car doesn't get any, and the steering feel is not that all impressive. It feels really light, and that is somehow very useful in the city, but when you are wanting to have some fun with the car, or if you want to drive it fast and with confidence, it tries to fade away because the feedback isn't there and the feel is very numb. So you really don't know where the wheels are actually pointing and what's happening underneath the car. But that's not to say that this is not a fun to drive car, because of course you have got 174 bhp at your disposal, and the torque delivery of an EV, you know what it works like. Now if I give you a small tutorial about the turning radius, as you can see I am making a U-turn with this car, and the steering is simply easy to and a joy to use. You can easily make 3-point turns without any effort, because the lightness is, as you can see, very easy to turn. Now talk about the ride quality of the car. I am now covering a speed breaker, and that unsettles the car a bit. What the biggest problem with the ZS EV and with any other EV in the market as well is the tire pressure, because these SUVs and these cars are really heavy because of the battery packs. This car has a recommended PSI of 41. That is like a normal car, say a Ester, would have 33 to 34 PSI for recommendation of tire pressure, but this car has 41 PSI recommendation. That means that tires are overinflated just to cope up with the weight of the car, the weight of the battery pack, and to also extend the range. And these cars also drive on low rolling resistance tires. So all that combined means that the ride is somehow stiffened up, not because the suspension isn't that of to that quality, but because of the fact that the tires are overinflated and there is a lot of weight in this car. While making turns, while driving fast, you can actually feel that this is a very heavy car, because there is an underlying firmness to it. The battery packs are stored well in the floor, and that somehow also increases the handling quotient of this car. But as I stated earlier, it's nothing to write home about, because the steering wheel doesn't have a lot of feedback. But that's all my nitpicking. On the features front, this car is really impressive. We get a whole suite of connected car tech. AMG also offers a first in segment digital key. With your phone, you can actually unlock the car. That's like BMW and the German cars category, but this at below 30 lakh rupees offers all of that. Still, I have 2 nitpickings with this car. First of all, this doesn't get the very applauded ventilation for the seats. In the summers, in the Gurgaon summer we are in, of course it is at the ending stage, but still I would have preferred to have some amount of cooling, some amount of perforation at the back and bum. At least it should have gotten perforated leather seats, if not ventilated. But nonetheless, another nitpicking I should point out is that it doesn't get an auto-dimming IR-VM. I mean, we are paying around 28 lakh rupees on road for this car, if you are supposed to buy, and still it doesn't get auto-dimming IR-VM. You have to do it manually, but again you have to live with it. Other than that, the whole cabin, the premium quotient of this car is really impressive. You do not feel that this is a 30 lakh rupee car. The dashboard, the top layer, everything has been finished with leather, and that is also very high quality. There are no amount of rattles, as I stated earlier. This car has done 15,000 kilometers, but still there are no amount of rattles in this car. And let me tell you that media cars are abused really badly, but still this car has stood the test of time. All the abuse this car has received, it has held up itself really well. Nonetheless, talking about other things, the practicality is really good, the space is good, and unlike regular EVs where the floor is set really high, in this car the floor is a decent height, so you are not always in a knee-up position, especially the rear passengers. Even though the space is not that generous, the practicality and the decent space management is there, so you are not losing out on that front. So if you want me to sum it up, let me tell you that the ZS EV continues to be one of the most sensible EVs in the market. At rupees 28 lakh rupees on road, this is unlike any other EV in the market. It delivers range that is it's supposed to be. The features are there, it looks really good, and it also offers a very sophisticated ownership experience as well. I was reading somewhere that the service package for this car is at 7,700 rupees for 3 years, and that is even not recommended, because the service charges for EVs are negligible per se, and you are only supposed to pay for the brake pads and all that stuff. And I do not support that, because I am still an internal combustion engine fan. But if I were to buy an EV in the market that has to be an SUV, it would be the ZS EV any day and every day. Of course, I truly believe the fact that EVs only make sense when you go up to the price segment. Just take the Mercedes EQS for example. It is 5 lakh cheaper than the S class because these cars attract a lot less GST rate. Government also offer 0% registration fees and 0% road tax, so that saves a lot of money as well. So if you are in a Delhi NCR region, if you want to save the environment, that's a cliched line, I know, but if you want to do so, you can obviously go for the ZS EV and you will turn out to be really impressive with the ownership experience. I hope you like this video, and it may certainly help you in a informed and a good buying decision. And if you felt so, please like this video, comment your views on it, and also subscribe to the channel. That would really help, and I would really appreciate your effort to do so. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, stay safe.